Welcome to my version of Deadlands Slaughter Gulch board game. Deadlands is an RPG world, the Wild West kind of gone wild due to a powerful shaman, Black Raven, calling in powers from the dark side, cataclysmic events reshaping the landscape, and the discovery of ghost rock, a substance that is used to make all sorts of far-fangled inventions to bring us into a steampunk era. The basic game, Slaughter Gulch board game, has been expanded with rules and uh, other components to make it closer to the role-playing aspect of the game. It's a 3 to 4 hour board game from 2 to 6 players. I'm going to give you a short introduction of the game on this tutorial. The entire game board is a 3D 1/72 scale town of Slaughter Gulch with all the buildings in the original games and several additional buildings where players can move their pawns from building to building to perform certain actions. Everything you've seen in a Wild West movie, you can do in this game, pretty much. So put your gun in your holster and let's take a ride. Here are some of the game pieces to help you familiarize and recognize them. Number 1, Town Gossip cards. These cards are drawn whenever your pawn is in an area with 2 or more townfolk and they choose an action to listen to gossip. As they loiter around, they overhear gossip that can help them in the game. Most of the gossip is valuable and can be used to give you an advantage later in the game. But there is also worthless gossip. Number 2, the faction telegraph cable messages. When you go into the telegraph office, your faction can receive a telegraph from your overlord or boss. This will give you an objective. Most of these objectives are things you would normally do anyway, but you get additional victory points for fulfilling them. One stipulation, though, is that until you have a gang meeting, you can't reveal the objective cards. So the idea is to gain several objective cards before hosting a meeting and bringing all your gang members to your home base. And then any objective can be fulfilled. Number 3, gun store event or item cards. These item cards are slightly yellowed to differentiate them from the event general store item cards. As the train and stagecoach comes into town through the event cards, the gun store and general store are loaded up with these cards. Whenever you go to that store, if you want to purchase or steal an item, you look through the deck and choose the item that you want and buy it or try to rob the store. Number 4, harrowed powers. Whenever one of your pawns dies, he's put in the cemetery. When an event is drawn that says harrowed raising, all dead pawns are raised from the dead and can draw a harrowed powers card, which will give them a unique power. Number 5 is the general store item cards that are loaded in through the events of stagecoach and train. Number 6 is the land deed cards. There's two types: the regular land deeds to land and building titles, which give you the cost of the card to buy the building, the rent that you gain from that land, and the shares of voting rights it gives you in the General Assembly to call for a mayor reelection. Also, there are silver-backed cards that are mineral rights cards to the land, to the Ghost Rock mines. You need one mineral rights card per pawn that prospects in the mines. You start the game with one card, and you need to purchase the remaining cards if you bring more pawns to the prospecting of the mine. Number 7 is the recruit encounters cards. Whenever you go to recruit a townsfolk, you draw one of these cards and resolve the action on the card. Different oppositions, most of them are smart versus smart. Number 7 is the recruit encounters, yes. Number 8 is the bar fight cards. Whenever a bar fight action card, event card is drawn, every player must put one of their pawns inside the bar saloon, and they gain one card for every fight, for every strength stat they have. So the higher the strength stat, the more cards they get. And then they play the cards based on the initiative of that fighter going first, and a bar fight ensues. At the end of the bar fight, the player with the fewer wounds is declared the winner and gets the reward. Number 9, the game event cards. Whenever at the beginning of the turn a game event card is turned over in red, and players resolve that action. Number 10 is special thugs and killers hiring cards. These are unique. We can go to the Irish bar and hire a Irish thug to beat up on a pawn that you don't like, or you can go to the Chinese restaurant and hire one of the tongs hatchet men that will kill a pawn that you designate. This is a good way to avoid detection from the law, because both the Tong hatchet men and the Irish fighters will not reveal who hired them. Next, 11 is Ghost Rock. Green rock is worth 1, red rock is worth 5, black rock is worth 10. Number 12 is the townfolk. As you bring in new townfolk from the stagecoach and train, you start adding them to the board so that the pawns know where to go to hear gossip, recruit, or rob a townsfolk. Then 13 is horses. When you buy a horse, you put the horse next to the pawn, and that indicates that you can move 4 spaces instead of 2. The bones, are 2d6. Occasionally there are events that require you to roll the bones. So those are the basic group game components. Everybody gets a map of the entire board, and the map has Main Street, 2nd Street, and Backwater Alley as the 3 streets that events can take place in, and you can move along. Then there's 1 through 35 or 33 land locations or buildings that are on the board. And then there's the 6 exit points. Each of these exit points can be entered or exited the town. Once you're outside the town, you're safe from everything but a posse. Certain entry and exit points are regulated, like the stagecoach uh, only appears when the event card stagecoach is in play. It appears on Main Street. The train only appears the number 2 exit out toward Colorado only happens when the train is in town. Others have conditions. For example, the desert number 1 and the mountain pass number 5 both create a wound from extreme cold temperatures and extreme heat stroke in the desert. So if you enter or exit, you have to take a wound from these points. Then number 7 is a shanty town, and it's not an exit point, but it's a place you can hide. Anybody that's in that square is considered invisible due to the mass mazes of alleys and back little shanties that wind through this area, and so you're completely hidden from any other players. One of the advantages of exiting town when you're not running from the law is that you can leave one end of the board and enter the following turn the other end of the board. So you don't have to move across the board. You can exit and enter at any location. And once how you move is each player has magnets that are on the underside of their player station. They can flip up and place on the map where they're going to move from. Your pawn is already on the board where they're at, and so you move them 2 movements, or 4 if they're running, or 4 if they have a horse, um, to the new location. And if they're at their home base, there are special magnets that describe the action taking place. So let's say you have 2 uh, pawns at your home base. In this case, we're looking at a mad scientist. So he would be doing inventing and a lab action while he's at the home base. So you indicate what action they're taking at the home base. If they're doing a meeting, you just place 1 meeting on the center of the board, and that lets all the pawns, wherever they are on the board, to immediately meet at your home base. This is a good way to regroup and to pass out objectives. A little look at the actual pawns that are used. They're 1/72 scale miniatures. Some came with the basic game and some I made. Um, the Texas Rangers are your lawmen that want everybody to commit crimes, because the more people they arrest, the more money they make. They get the reward and payment. Their luck tokens are the sheriff badges. Then you have the agency. They're a secret organization hired by the president to infiltrate uh, Slaughter Gulch and take over the town. So they're trying to do things covertly, but they can be overt at some point in the game. But they lose points if they're discovered. They use a Medal of Honor as their luck tokens. Each time a new pawn comes into the game, you're given 1 or 2 luck tokens for that pawn. The luck tokens can be used for any action by any pawn, and you can use several in a turn or several in an action if you want. Then you have the Indians. Their luck token is a medicine bag. they're the Native American people that detest the white man, so much so that they're called Indians. Can you believe that? They can cast spells and have magic. The tribe is led by a woman shaman, and she can learn new spells. They can go on war parties. They can raid the town. They can still do regular actions like buy items and even work in the mines if they have to. But they also can do things like hunt and trap for animal skins that they can trade and make money because they prefer not to go to the ghost rock and harvest the rock. Then you have the mad scientists who need the ghost rock to uh, power all their inventions. They use plasma rods of ghost rock as their luck tokens. They live at the old mill, and that's where they do all their inventions and stuff. Then you have the hucksters. The hucksters are card sharks who home base is the saloon. They use poker chips as their luck tokens, and they're really good with cards. They also can perform a type of magic called hexing uh, that is all card driven and allows them to protect them from spells and from Church of the Blessed and do uh, offensive actions. Then you have the Church of the Blessed, who Bibles are their luck tokens. They have a church on the side of town. They prefer to do things not aggressively and tend not to fight, um, but they use the power of God and miracles to accomplish their goals. And lastly, we have the outlaws. The outlaws use bullets. By the way, these are live bullets, so don't throw them. As their luck tokens, and they have a secret hideout which can only be revealed to other players through gossip. So most of the time they're safe, and they get to do all the things that criminals like to do, like cattle rustle, rob banks, rob people, uh, extort, uh, kidnap, you name it, they can do it. So lastly, I want to quickly go over the turn sequence. It usually takes about 2 turns for you to learn the game. Again, this is a 3 to 4 hour game, and so usually after the first 30 minutes, you've pretty understood the basic game mechanics and are able to play and start using strategies and work your faction advantages to win the game. The first thing you have to do is pay rent on a building that you do not own. If another player owns it, you have to pay that player. Also, need to make sure that any crimes committed by your pawns get the appropriate wanted poster in their card sleeve. If they uh, have enough wanted posters that exceed 25 Ghost Rock uh, reward, then they also take on a wanted dead or alive token in their sleeve, which means that other players can kill them, gun them down, and get the reward. Then the whole group draws one event card. It's read out loud to all the players, and any actions that need to be resolved are resolved. Then you, if it's like a train or stagecoach, which happens often, you replace items and townfolk and place them into the town. Then each player secretly makes their move as indicated in the earlier slide with the magnetic action tokens, up to 6 pawns and 2 additional uh, hired guns or harrowed. So you can only have a maximum of 8 movement total. You place all your people on the board, and then um, it's simultaneously revealed. Everybody puts their board on top of the table and can't touch the board until it's their turn. Everybody draws a card and places it on top of their map, and then starting with the highest number, it's resolved on down um, to the lowest uh, number. Again, a luck token can be played at any time a card is drawn. You can play a luck token to discard that card and draw another card. At the end of everybody's action, everybody quickly checks the percentage of town ownership they have for the end game conditions. And of course, if those conditions are met, then everybody adds up their victory points to see who the mayor is that won the game. Hopefully that'll give you a general overview of the game and get you excited enough to want to play Slaughter Gulch, the wild, wild, weird west.